So excited to have Jennifer here today. Jennifer is the executive director for the Canadian Association of Music Therapists, and she has been an invited keynote speaker at national and international conventions, speaking on music therapy and health entrepreneurship to a wide variety of education, healthcare, government, small business, and corporate audiences. She is an author of two award-winning books, Tune In and Wellness Incorporated. We will get that to you. And she's appeared as a guest on numerous news and current affairs programs, including Fox News Health, NBC, CBS, CTV, Global TV, CBC Radio, and television, and has been featured in publications such as The Guardian, Huffington Post, and Canadian Living. In addition to her music therapy education, Jennifer has her executive MBA specializing in social entrepreneurship from the University of Fredericton. And so I am so happy that you're here, Jennifer. We're so excited. We have enjoyed Jennifer, just getting to know her the last few months, and really, really looking forward to this training. So thanks for being here, Jennifer. And I'll just hand it over to you.
Great. Well, I first witnessed the power of music when I was 14 years old. I mean, I'd had music in my life up till then, but seeing that transformational change happened when I was 14, when my granddad suffered his second major stroke, was placed in long-term care, and it was an unnatural environment for me to go visit. It was an unnatural space. I had no education. I walked down the corridors. I went into his room. He was alone lying in his bed. My grandmother would be kind of putzing around his small room. And I immediately went over to this small little television set in the corner. And I was desperately trying to tune in anything. Very similar to how kids today would go to their PlayStations because they feel uncomfortable, or check their phones or do something. And what I needed to do with Granddad was connect, but I didn't know how. And it would take my granny to say, "Jenny, would you learn your granddad's favorite song?" Well, I have to tell you, friends, that my granddad was truly the most miserable old man I'd ever met in my life. And up to that moment, I had no idea that grumpy people had favorite songs. But he did. So Granny asked me to learn his. I went in the following Friday and I brought my guitar and I sat in front of his bed and I began to play this song that Granny introduced me to. This song that was so old then, so it's really old now. It went like this. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow, when the world is free. Well, during that moment, my granddad, who was no longer able to walk or talk, he started to cry. But that wasn't the only thing that started to happen. There was a screaming lady, and I don't know if you've been anywhere lately in our healthcare system, but occasionally you may know who that is, the screaming lady. Well, her screaming was getting louder, and as she was coming closer to the room, we realized she was no longer screaming, but she too was singing. And then there's the wandering guy. Maybe you've met him too. Well, he wandered right on in, and Granny pulled up a chair right beside me. I was still 14, a little broody, and I couldn't quite figure out what was happening. But Granny put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Go ahead, dear. The shepherd will tend his sheep. The valley will bloom again. And Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow, when this world is free." That was the day I began to tune into music in a new way. I began to learn how it can help me connect, but also how it can help others connect to one another. Today, we're going to tune in together as we build this beautiful space that's going to be doing beautiful things, having a music of its own between the people and the instruments and the art, and the time just to think, to reflect, to be. All those things are going to be coming into fruition, and music will be a part of it. Jessica's house. Thank you so much for having me today. I am getting myself all set up so I can continue to see the chat box. And please feel free to communicate in there, because the first question I have for everybody today is I want you to think about the music you've been listening to this week. The music that's top of mind, and either put in the chat box the style of music it is or a particular song that is resonating really deeply with you. But if everyone can just start sharing their music, it also gives us a sense of one another and learning of one another. And at some point, it would be a great opportunity to put together just a playlist that includes music that means something to you. But right now, if everyone can just add a piece of music or a genre that really matters to you in this moment, at this time of in your lifetime, and you can just put it in right there in the chat box. As I move forward, I'm going to come back to this because I wanted to let you know what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to begin looking at the science of music and how music affects spaces, and maybe even more importantly than the space itself, how it affects you, how it affects those that we serve, how music then changes us. And we're going to focus on two very specific elements of music. We're going to look at tone and tempo today. And then we're going to do an exercise and talk about creating purposeful playlists and what does that actually mean. And then looking at considerations and top tips for when we are using music. So we're going to go through all of these. Oh, thank you so much that you are writing all the genres you love to listen to or the special music that means so much. Please just keep adding that. And as you're adding it, I want you to think about, and this is going to go on one piece of paper right now. I want you to think of 3 characteristics or 3 attributes of the music you're listening to right now. 3 different words that would describe the music that you are listening to. Beautiful. I love that. Worship music, classical music. It is well in my soul. Jazz, hip hop, alternative. I mean, so good. And as you come up with three of your words, maybe some of your words might land here. So, thinking of the music you're listening to right now, and how would you describe it? You don't have to use these words, you can just pick three. And everything we do today, there are also things that you can do with others so you can get to know them better as well through their music listening. And so you might pick the three words, and again, feel free to go into the chat box and list your three words that would describe that music you're putting in. How you would describe French indie music or jazz and big band. I love your beach playlist. I've got a similar one for when I work out. It helps me a lot. Peace and love and adoration as the first three words. Whether you write it in the chat box or you just keep it personal, I'd like you just to put them somewhere so you can look at those three words and you can reflect on those characteristics of the music you're listening to right now in your life. The music that helps you feel calm, reassured, promising, deep, inspiring, and light, beautiful. Upbeat, storytelling, soulful. I want you to continue to think about those three words because there is a tremendous amount of evidence out there about how deeply we are connected to our music, each and every one of us. Different than those around us, it's incredibly personal to who we are and our experiences and what resonates with us. So if there's that much evidence out there, and if now we're describing our music, our connected, free, and inspired, energy, light, and a good beat, perhaps it's not just our music that we are defining right now, the music we're listening to right now, but perhaps it's also the way we could define ourselves. And if not ourselves, perhaps it's who we aspire to be, want to be, dream of being, need to be. This has been a very, very hectic year for so many people. So as we are putting words together of wanting to feel calm and relaxed, it might not be that our day-to-day is fulfilling those, but music is helping to add that in to our lives. Beautiful. You can keep sharing your words with your friends and colleagues on the line. So it's no surprise then, as we look at our brain, this amazing brain of ours, that music is everywhere. It is not in one place. It is a global brain process. It can activate all these areas in so many ways. Upon being with Granny and Granddad and the screaming lady and the gentleman who was wandering on in, I had a lot of questions around music. And I began to hear the term music therapy several times. I think I actually heard the term music therapy 12 times before I was 18 years old. Nobody was hearing music therapy back then, but I kept bumping into it along the way. And it just felt natural to then pursue my education as a music therapist so I could begin to answer some of the questions that I had. And some of those answers I'm going to share with you today. This is one of them. That the fact that music can be in every area means that if someone is going through something, even something significant like a physical head injury, music can still be accessed. If we've gone through significant trauma, music can still be accessed. Where we need to pay attention, though, is sometimes it can feel so evocative and so powerful. And if we're going through a tough time, sometimes we might just need a bit of a break from that music because it is so much. And maybe some of you on the line right now have experienced that yourselves, where you've taken a little bit of a break and then you reintroduce it back into your lives like a friend, an old friend that is there to give you a big hug. Well, we're not going to go through all of these areas today. It's just, I wanted you to be aware of all the different ways music can be used. But I want to talk a little bit about that amygdala. The amygdala is the one that, when we have gone through something traumatic, something incredibly tough, and we begin to feel like we want to hide or we want to run or we just freeze in our place, that's when the amygdala is on fire. Music, as one of the creative agents that we can use amongst a host of creative agents, is something that can help release the pressure on that amygdala and move us into a different area of the brain. My favorite's the hippocampus. I love doing music and story together, where just like I shared my story of my granddad, and perhaps you have a lot of stories in your own life that have music at the foreground, and you can share those stories. And as you're sharing that story and remembering that music and perhaps playing that music along, it's very difficult to stay as worried and as tightly woven around the amygdala area. You've moved over to the hippocampus and you begin to feel that more relaxed and creative self. And then as you're there, you don't stay in the creative forever, although don't we wish we could sometimes. But what happens is it's easier then to move into that frontal lobe so you can make your next decision. If you've ever worked with a child or you've ever worked with an adult, or perhaps it's your spouse right now, who is constantly just circling around the same issues that are really prevalent in their lives, and they're having such a hard time to make a decision and to move forward, the creative arts, music, can help us get there, even if it's just for a short period of time. Another remarkable element around music, as we get into more of the details, is how it affects the hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain, which affects our whole body. And it does act like a drug on the system. We can look at how music, what changes happen, and it's all the things that I know many of you already know. We talk about dopamine a lot, which is the feel-good hormone. Music has the capacity to raise our dopamine up to about 35% higher. We also have serotonin. Serotonin's the one we don't want to get too low. When serotonin gets too low, we feel low, and we can feel locked up in feeling low. Oxytocin is that bonding and connection, that feeling when you're singing around the campfire and you just feel closer to your friends or people you've just met for the very first time. And cortisol, it's the one that we do want to come down, which is our stress hormone. Music affects all of these, and quickly. It's incredibly efficient on how fast it can affect these different hormones in our system. But it's not just any music. It is the music that often resonates with us the most. Sometimes it's incredibly familiar, but it's not always. I'm sure you've had opportunities where you've heard a song for the first time and it has just struck a chord in you so quickly. But it does mean that it's music at the right time in the right way. And often these different elements of music matter. Genre matters. You were putting the types of music that you love to listen to. Well, good thing we're not looking at each other right now, because there are people on this line who go, country music is the best music ever. Some of you are going, no, I don't think that at all. Some of you are saying alternative and rock and roll. And others are going, no, 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 that cannot be. But that's how it is. We all prefer different music. One of the questions I often get, and this is something for you to think about, is that I get the question around youth in particular, and maybe the music they're listening to, and the parents being very worried about the kind of music our youth are listening to, and the language that's being used, and the beats that are being used. And since the dawn of time, especially rock and roll, that has been the dilemma. I was just watching an episode of Elvis Presley again the other day, and oh my goodness, like people with PhDs and parents were just going crazy about how this cannot be. This Elvis Presley just cannot be. He is going to destroy humanity. And I get asked those questions all the time. I'm also not going to say that all music is good for us. But it's important we ask the person listening a very important question. And that is, when you listen to that music, how does it make you feel? If it makes you feel lower than you were and lower than you know you should be, it's not the right music for you. If it makes you ramped up, where all of a sudden you start acting out. One of the places that I work on a regular basis is in corrections, and we talk about this all the time. If music is ramping you up so much and you're using it to help you move into activity that is not good for you in society, it's not the best music for you. We need to use music for the best that it can bring us, that it can strengthen us, that it can make us feel good. So, genre, very important. Then there's tempo. I thought today I'm going to play 3 tempos for you. I'm going to have you just sit back in your chair. I'm going to have you put your feet flat on the ground. I'm going to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to play these 3 tempos. Before I do, though, I need to tell you this is not a relaxation exercise. Even though I just got you ready for one, I don't want to disappoint. But I do want you to feel how these 3 tempos make you feel. Let's see. Okay. So this is normally when I get a hands up. I don't know if I can see oh, I might be able to. Maybe. We'll see. I've got you all there. I would like you to put your hands up if you've got the hands up sign, and I'm looking at the attendees. If you liked, out of all those 3, number 1, the best, the slowest one, put your hands up. Great. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is great. It even tallies it at the top for me. Okay. Perfect. Number 1, the best. Okay. Great. So you can close your hand off. That's great. About 9 people got there. Who liked the second one the best? Put your hands up. Fantastic. Great. Few more there, but pretty good, yeah. Great. And you can close off. Third one. Who liked the third one the best? Wonderful. Well, you proved exactly what the science says every time I've done this, which is that that we almost were a third, and a third. But let's think about that for a moment. I just played three very different tempos. We're all at the same time of day, more or less. I'm an hour away, but you're at the same time of day. You've all are in the same space. We're all sitting at a desk. We're looking at a screen. And yet, those three tempos affected each one of us different. To the point that that first tempo, where some of you loved it, the people who picked three might not have liked it at all. It may have actually made them feel anxious. It was so slow. Then there was the third one, which was perhaps too fast for some of you. And that may have made you feel anxious. So it's interesting how these three different tempos, just the three of them, we can have such a different and unique perspective. As we use music, and particularly when we use music with others, we can never make the assumption that even the tempo is what they need. We need to ask. We need to pay attention. We need to look for the foot stomping and see exactly what's going to help someone enter into the best tempo for them for what they need. So we go back and we see also there's rhythm on here, and there's melody, and there's lyric. But today I wanted to focus a little bit more on tone, timbre. I don't know how you say it in California. Is it timbre? I say timbre. We could have that debate a little bit later too. So we're going to bring the timbre, the tone out. And I was so excited to read the list of musical instruments you're bringing into your gorgeous Jessica's house. Oh, how I cannot be just a little bit jealous by the array of experiences you're going to be sharing with everybody. I brought to our meeting today, I just brought a metal tongue drum. So tongue drums originally were made out of wood, and often in a square, or they might have been in a log, a rounded log, and you would cut slits in the top so you could get different tones. This one is very much in the same premise, a steel tongue drum, and I just want to play a little bit of this for you. I'm going to play two different instruments, and as I'm playing them, just like you were defining the music with three characteristics that you're listening to, I just want you to start thinking about how you would start defining this music as well. A metal tongue drum. All instruments, just like music, brings with it different character. It shares something about our personality. it draws us in or pushes us away. It can do both. The next one I'd like to share with you is this is a cedar flute. I'm hoping you can see that okay. Do you see this beautiful craftsmanship at the top here? A lot of the kids think it's a dragon, but it's an eagle's head. And this is so light. I wish you could feel it. It's just made out of cedar. It's a single piece of cedar. In the front, we have quite a bit of turquoise, just the amount of care and attention. I purchased this at a Colorado conference when I was there, and it's just become a very dear friend. So I'm going to play this for you, and let's see how this makes you feel. The flute. And I'll show you the tongue drum one more time so you can see it in the full screen. There you go. Thanks. So, tone. As we think about tone, it's not just instruments that carry tone with them. It's us. It's us as volunteers. It's us as staff. We carry with us a certain tempo as well. We know when we're around someone who's moving a lot faster than us. I'd like you to think about that for a minute. Someone who's moving really quick all the time. How does that make you feel? And then when we're around people that are moving slower than you, how does that feel? How about somebody when you're around them, and I hope it's not too often, that sounds really crispy to you? They've got a bit of an edge to their tone as they move around and as they communicate. How do we feel? And then how do we feel when we're around those that may be speaking a little bit too slow and too relaxed? How does that feel? All these affect us, and they affect us all differently. So it's more that we're aware and that we're paying attention. That although we're creating this absolutely gorgeous space, we're a part of that space. We're going to be a part of its music with our instruments, but also with bringing in our own tone and our own tempo. We're going to move into an activity, but before we do that, I would love to know if there's any questions, and this is the perfect time for that. Did you have any questions about music in the brain, any of the science, or around different things around the tone or timbre kinds of music, how to pick different music? And you can put it in the Q&A or you can put it in the chat box, and we can read it out for you. We're going to move into the activity that you're going to need your piece of paper and a pen. If you want to use a felt, that will work, or even coloring pens, you can use those as well. We're going to work on an assignment for creating purposeful playlists, and this is just one way in which we can do it. So, but if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask at
Elizabeth
any
asks,
time.
because I love music, is so personal and can affect us so deeply. How do you choose something that be something that
Yeah,
can
that's
be
positive and
positively appreciated by all?
appreciated.
Yeah.
I think the first thing to realize, Elizabeth, is that it's not going to be appreciated at the same level for all. That's the one thing we have to understand. It's going to um, be just being sensitive to the music, and we know there's certain music where um, generally people can feel quite comfortable about it, but the level of appreciation will always be different unless we are specifically talking them through about finding the music that matters the most to them. Yeah, yeah. Without a verbal cue, just like Brad had to do with me, a verbal cue to tell me to fix my slides, um, is the way to determine the right music is by body response. Often, yeah. And also just paying attention. Like as soon as you start seeing a bit of a furrow or just a little bit of pressure or pain or someone starting to close in, yeah, it's too much, and it's better to just stop and to move forward from there. Does that help? So here we are. We're going to talk about the mixtape. So I don't know the age of everybody on here, but I am certain there are people on here that have never seen a reel-to-reel projector. I am sure there are people who have not have heard of microfiche. And then I'm sure there's people who have. And it's one of my favorite conversations about the experiences we've had with technology as it's evolved over the years. And I have to tell you, the most exciting thing has happened to me this week, where one of the places my company serves, so we are a team of 20 music therapists. We work in a variety of locations. Our youngest is 4 months old. Our eldest is 104. We go into long-term care. We go into the hospitals. We're in hospices and palliative care, corrections, like I was saying. Such a host. Well, you can imagine with the pandemic, not being able to see some of our clients has been terrible. We're on a significant lockdown right now. I know California's been feeling it as well. And so we haven't been able to go into some of the places that has been riddled by COVID. And we have been given access to a robot. So speaking of technology, and what this robot is, it basically has a very large iPad or like a tablet at the top. And so our face and guitar can be seen in that. And from our home, we can maneuver the robot throughout the hallways to go and visit our elders in long-term care. So I have to tell you, just talking about the microfiche and the reel-to-reel to having a robot in my lifetime is just mind-blowing to me. But as we talk about playlists, I can't help but think about the mixtapes that I did while I was in grade school. And you probably did something similar. And if you were younger than me, it probably was on a CD. And now people are using flash drives. But in some way, you've used mixtapes. And let's just think about what a mixtape means. It means that I was sitting on the duo tape in order to be able to stop it and start it at exactly the right time. If I got it wrong, I had to put my pencil inside one of the holes and roll it back slightly. And you would spend endless hours putting together this tape for your best friend or a friend or for a parent to listen to and get to know your music. And basically, when you presented that mixtape, you were saying, I love you. I love you so much. I just spent the last 8 hours of my life doing it. So that's what a mixtape is. Well, today we're going to do a spin-off of the mixtape, we're going to talk about purposeful playlists. And I'd be really excited if Jessica's House created a variety of purposeful playlists that people could either select, put together themselves, and you would have some of the functionality to do that. Even just talking it through can be really positive. And I'm going to share with you, again, this is just one way. I've got several ways of doing personal playlists, but this one might be my favorite because it's so specific to you. So I want you to bring out your piece of paper and your pen in front of you. And I would like you to draw out this very first diagram. And so you'll have an X and Y axes. And along the Y, you've got these three categories: my not so good self, my average self, and my best self. Now, I do not define those, but I would like you to define those for you. Because again, this is where we're all so different. Your not so good self looks different than my not so good self. When I'm not so good, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I can feel my pacing inside of me is escalated a little bit. I can also feel brutally tired, that bone tired, where I'm not able to get going. That's my not so good self. Then there's my average self right in the middle. Pretty chillaxed. I move through my day. It's fine. You know, all those moments we say it's fine and it's truly fine. That's my average self. And then my best self is highly productive. I'm getting a lot done. I'm feeling happy, optimistic, hopeful, all those feelings. So I want you to define for yourself just what are those feelings that you can have at any time in your week, in your year. And then at the bottom, you've got your wake up, mid-morning, noon, etc. And that's going to be the just how the time of day that it's going to be. And literally, I want you to plot your graph. So if everybody can write those words down, and I want you then to plot your graph. This is my graph. Yours won't look like this. I am quickly identifying to you that I'm a morning person. I'm absolutely my best self in the morning. I love to wake up early, all that. I will tell you right now, I did not marry a man who feels the same about the mornings. He is at his not so good self first thing in the morning. I don't know how this happens. Why is it that we connect with people that aren't like us at all? So here we are. So yours is going to look different. Everyone can put theirs together, the wake up, the bedtime. And I just want you to take a moment and plot your graph. Yeah. How's that feeling? Are you able to do something pretty authentic? Typical day. I mean, it's tough because how you feel on a Saturday might be different than how you feel on a Wednesday. So, you know, just try to pick a typical day. And then when you have a minute, you can highlight yours, put them all together. That's great. Good. That's great. So, and then the next thing that I'd like you to do is I would like you to circle the place that if you had ultimate control, you could change it just by 10% even, either going up or going down. But if you could change it even 10%, your whole day would feel better. All right, Brad, I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but what I am wondering, is it possible for us to go into separate rooms and have a bit of a discussion on this? I don't know.
Give me 5 seconds to look.
Yeah, if we can. I know you can on Zoom, but I wasn't sure on webinar.
I don't believe we can on
No,
webinar.
that's okay. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I would like everyone to put into the chat box. All I want you to say is what time of day out of all those choices, if you could make a 10% choice, 10% change, that it would change your whole day. So go ahead and put that in. Excellent. Excellent. We're going to learn so much about you right now. Yep. Wake up. Yeah, it's great. I'm so sorry to all those people who aren't morning people. You're so missing out. Oh, I know you don't think that. Look at that. Look at capital letters. Morning. It's great. It's great. Mid-afternoons. Perfect. Oh, that's great, everybody. Okay, so you've identified it. Now, here's the therapy part. Are you ready? If you could feel something different at that time of day, what feeling would help you shift 10%? I again have put some ideas together. Do you need to feel some inspiration or energy or joy or calmness? Do you need to feel safe? Do you need to feel ease? What feeling is it that you feel you need to actually change you at that time of day? Would you please put that in? Yeah, there we go. Energy, motivation, ease, rested, peace, calm, right? All these things. Connection. Love that word. Great word. Excellent. Okay, so you've got your word. That word is the name of your purposeful playlist. That's the word. And every song you put into that playlist makes you feel that way. As soon as there's a song in there that doesn't make you feel that way when you hear it, the beauty of today's technology, you can just take it out. It was very hard to do on the mixtape days to actually change your purposeful playlist. But you can change your purposeful playlist. And this is the name of that. So can you not also see how you could have purposeful playlists for all sorts of things? But it does take work. It takes energy. It takes time. And like all good things do. But it can also be fun to look into ourselves a little bit more and to really begin to curate the music that helps us feel a certain way. Aaron and I were talking about the word reflection. I love that word. That would be a beautiful playlist to put together for different folk. You know, what is the music that helps you feel the most reflective? Again, it's going to be different for everybody. I've known some pretty hardcore alternative listeners who use that as their meditation, as their way to reflect. So it's very, very different for each of us. Okay, does that work? Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm glad. So just one way of doing purposeful playlists. And of course, there are so many other ways in which we can do it. The next piece I wanted to go through, and again, if you've got any questions as we go along, or if you have any ideas of different spin-offs that you can do on things, please feel free to share those. Because we're going to go into now some concepts around strategies to rock your world, just like these grandmas. How terrific are they, right? This is me, folks. This is going to be me. I've now been a music therapist for 30 years. I have big dreams. It looks like this. I love it. So, first thing I'd like to look at with a strategy, and these are more philosophical, just general reminders and thinking around music. And that's around harnessing the power of music throughout your day. Having music on 100% of the time from the moment you walk into a space till you leave a space can provide something like company. It can feel like company. You may know somebody who leaves music on all the time. And it's often because they do appreciate feeling that familiar friend is with them. But we also know that if we're using music in a powerful way, in an impactful way, it's actually better to use it in smaller doses. So not on all the time. The other reason I like that personal soundtrack is because it gives you a very specific time to play the music, and that is the last piece to it. So you've picked your word, you've picked ease, inspiration. You know it's 3 o'clock typically. It's listening to even music for 10 or 20 minutes. You don't have to listen to it for the whole time for that moment. 10 to 20 minutes will do it. And again, most of the research around music's around the 20-minute mark that we're monitoring, and we're seeing great effects in regards to that. So harnessing music throughout your day when you need it most, as people enter the space, as people leave the space, as people transition to another room, to help as a soothing agent, to help as a motivator. All those elements of music is when it can work and be most efficient and effective. Okay. Am I gonna know? Oh yeah. See, I'm not gonna know about that, Julia. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully everyone on the team knows exactly what you mean. So harnessing that power of music throughout your day. At the same time, one of the things that you may not be expecting to hear in a music presentation is around using silence. And if you think about it, what is music? It's this incredible blend between sound and silence all the time. And for some of the clients I work with who are having a hard time sleeping at night, so if that was you, I recommend, yes, putting on soothing music, but instead of listening to the music itself, try to use your ears to pick up the spaces in between the notes. It's a different way of listening to music. It's the silence in between the sound. And using silence, this golden commodity, as often as we can. I can remember I went snowshoeing. I'm in Canada, so we can go snowshoeing. And I was rounding a mountain, and my friends were up ahead further than I, so I was by myself at the back. I'm also always at the back. And so I was rounding the mountain, and just as I was coming around the mountain, but I couldn't see my friends yet, I heard for the first time pure silence. Have you ever heard pure silence? It's like normally there's a whir of something, there's a sound of something, there's a rustle, there's a wind. There was nothing. There was no wind. It was absolute silence. And the silence made me stop in my tracks, literally, to hear silence. I'd love to hear that again. I'd love to have the opportunity to really explore that. But finding as many opportunities as we can just to appreciate and be in the silence can be just as powerful and just as musical than when we're listening to sound. Connect more deeply to the sounds of your environment. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing again because I want to talk a little bit about our environment. So, the sounds in your environment. Let's take another piece of paper. Would that be all right? And what I want you to do is I just want you to put a line right down the middle of your paper. Right down the middle. And then I want you to put a line across the paper. Okay, so you've got 4 quadrants. And in the first row, so in your first row here, in each box, I would like you to put a typical feeling you have every week. So one feeling in each box, typical feeling. But if you've already written happy, sad, or angry, I want you to be a bit more creative about it. So you could put, if you're frustrated, put frustrated. And maybe let's make one of them negative. So one positive, one negative. How's that sound? Nothing like doing an activity on the fly. And so in the positive, you might have joyful, happy. Nope, I said don't use happy, something more descriptive. People share some descriptive words. Peaceful, a different word. And then a negative word, frustrated or overwhelmed, or what are some of those that we can have? Inspiring, pensive, bored. Bored might be negative for some. So put your 2 words, which would be great. And then next to each of those words, I would like you to think about the sounds in your environment, at work, at home, outside, anywhere, that every time you hear them, they make you feel that way. Okay? Let's just put some words together. Oh, I love the word playful. That's fun. So every time you hear those sounds, they make you feel that way. Yeah. And if you're finding this hard, I don't want you to worry too much about that, how difficult it is. We tend to be a pretty visual society, high on the visual. There's actually been some, and I'm keep looking for more science around this, that our visual cortex is getting a little bit bigger. Like with all the screen time and things that we're constantly looking at, that we're becoming a highly visual society, and we don't always talk about our auditory as much and how does it impact us. If you have young children at home, you know when those children stop talking and you can't hear them, something's gone awry. We know that. We also know if we hear footsteps that do not sound familiar, we check our safety, right? There are different sounds can really tell us quite a few things. So here you've got, so can I just get a couple of ideas again in the chat box of for the positive sound, whatever it is, just some of the sounds that you would associate with that positive sound in your life. I'd love to hear that. Laughter, birds chirping, right? All good things. Yeah, it's great. I had someone say dog snoring. They love hearing their dog snore. Yeah, it's great. Ah, that's lovely. It's lovely. Wonderful. Oh, waves crashing. Yes. I miss that. Another reason I'm coming to California. Yeah, rain, right? Oh, just hearing it on the rooftop. Kids laughing, kids conversing, kids playing outside. It's beautiful. I worked with this elder whose husband had recently died, and I was working with the 2 of them for a really long time. And while he was alive, she would often complain about how much he tinkered around the house. He would just constantly tinker all day, and it would drive her crazy. She just wanted him to, sit in the chair and relax. And when he passed away, we had this conversation around what was it she was missing the most. And she missed his tinkering, right? She missed all the sounds of his tinkering that used to drive her crazy. And so we talked about what could we do to bring in other positive sounds in her life. And she said, I just love the sound of children laughing, but none of my children, they're all grown and they don't live close to me any longer. And so what we did was we built a walk into her routine that would go by the school during recess, so she could walk slowly around and tune her ear in specifically to the children's laughter. So what's great about sounds is it's about what we add in. Unlike most diets where we have to get rid of the chocolate cake and sometimes even the chips, Brad, sometimes we have to get rid of the chips for a period of time. But when it's our auditory diet, we can add in all of these different sounds and pay attention to the sounds we hear, and sometimes just laying on the floor with children and saying, "What do you hear?" and hearing what they hear, and hearing and stretching our ears out so we can hear something. Okay, let's hear some of the negative ones. So the ones on the bottom, what are some negative sounds for you in your lifetime? And yeah, kids fighting. Right? Another generational thing that's been a problem for years. Phones okay, we're starting to get a little bit of anxiety around when the phone rings, hey? I totally right? Text, any notification, any dinging. First thing I did before I got on with you today was turn off every notification that I have, right? Like, don't want that. Very good. Sirens, yeah. Oh, yeah. The chains clanging on an empty playground, and some of them are quiet right now. Sirens. So all these negative sounds. The dilemma is we can't do a lot around the negative sounds. Now, at Jessica's house, my hunch is you have great insulation and you're going to be able to curate some beautiful environment where you're not going to hear a lot of the negative sounds. But in day-to-day life, it's really hard. Like when we see something we don't want to see, we can close our eyes. But we can't do that with our ears in the same way. So I do encourage people to always focus more on what you can add in to your life. Strengthen your strengths. That's in life as well. Strengthen our strengths is much easier than try to curb any weakness that we may perceive. So just as a metaphor for all things. Yeah, no, that's good. Thanks everyone for participating in that and for helping us connect more deeply into, I'm going to do it right again. Here we go. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to connect more deeply to the sounds in our environment. And then the next one is exploring new music. I don't know where you're at with your own music listening. Some of us are stuck. You know, we stay with the same stuff. And I know why we do it. And research supports it, actually. We only add about 5% new music post the age of 35. That's it. If that. Most of the music we listen to, we really resonate the most with from 35 and under. So having an opportunity to explore new music, the nice thing about working with new people and serving new people is getting to know their music. And even if it's music you've never heard of or known before, as they share it with you, you make a new connection to that music. People often ask me, "Jen, what's your favorite music?" I no longer am able to tell you. I am absolutely certain of that. I associate music with the people that I have met along the way. Some people say it's the journey, others the destination. I believe it's the company we keep along the way, and it's the music I get to know them in that company that has made all the difference. So getting to know those that we serve and the music that we listen to in conversation, and as they play it for you and select it for you and share it with you, it will bring new things into your life as well. With that said, streaming services have now made it really quite simple to find new music. And if you haven't yet, but if you go to a place, Actually, I don't think there's Google Play anymore, but there's Apple Music and Spotify, our iHeartRadio, and different places where you can stream music. Spotify and Apple Music in particular, you can pick a genre. And you can pick a genre and you can identify new music within that genre, or you can pick a feeling. You can pick calm, or you can pick happy or upbeat or energized. And they have curated some music. Now, it's not a personalized playlist. You may not like everything on it, but it will introduce you to some new music. Share another story with you. And the people we serve teach us things, a lot, actually. And in my case, it's been no different. When I was first starting out as a music therapist, I was in my first 5 years or so, and I was working on the palliative care unit. And how it works in palliative care for me is that I'm a part of a menu. And so the patients that are on the unit, they will be able to select whether they would like music therapy that day or not. And they call me to their room, and I go to their room at a certain time, prescribed time of day, in between often other therapies that are going on. And I walked into Gwen's room, meeting her for the first time, and her eyes were sparkly and she was propped up on her pillows, and she had a colorful headscarf on, and she looked right at me and she said, "Jen, I hear you're the music therapist here." She said, "Would you be able to come back Friday at 2:00? And just looking at her, she was a woman with a plan. And I knew my only answer to that was going to be yes. Yes, I can be here. So I returned the following Friday, and this time she was no longer alone. She had her daughter on one side, and she had her sister on the other side that she introduced me to. Oh, I missed a point. The point was when I was walking out her room the first time, she says, "Oh, and can you learn these 12 songs?" 12 songs. So now I've come back to her room. I'm meeting her sister. I'm meeting her daughter. I have the 12 songs that I've practiced. She had a chair. The nurse had put a chair out for me, and she had a piece of canvas in front of her. And she said, "I guess you're all wondering why you're here today. And it's because you two are having a hard time saying goodbye to me. Today's the day." I knew there wasn't going to be a dry eye in the house that day. And she said, "I've asked Jen to learn my 12 signature songs." I'd like you to think about that as I tell the rest of the story. If you were to curate your life down to 12 signature songs, what would they be? Another way to do a playlist. And as Jen sings the first song, I'm going to start to paint. And as she sings the second song, sister, I'm going to pass it on over to you so you can continue painting. And then we're going to move to the third song, daughter. And as we do, you will continue. Turned out all three were artists, and this is something they had done together often. But today was the last day. Today was the final goodbye as I sang through her 12 signature songs. At the end of it, they shared their piece, which was this. It was a beautiful meadow. Great, beautiful piece that they had drawn together. But she wasn't done yet. Gwen had a bigger plan. And the plan was that this image was going to screen onto CDs at the time. All 12 of her signature songs were placed on. She included the stories that went with each of the songs, engaging that hippocampus and then putting it out into the world. And every person who came to her funeral 6 weeks later received a copy. That was Gwen's plan. That was her signature 12. We're going to sing together. We're going to sing the last song on Gwen's signature 12. And we're all muted right now, so feel free to sing out loud. I hope many of you know this song. What a Wonderful World. And you can hum along, you can sing along. I've seen trees of green, red roses too. I seen 'em bloom for me and you. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I've seen skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day and the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah. What songs would be in your signature 12? What's one song you know for sure? If you were to curate all your music, and for those of us who have so much music, curating it into just a signature 12, again, will take some time and effort, but what a remarkable exercise to identify the 12 that have mattered the most, that are the most personalized, that are the most meaningful. What's one song that would be on your list? Beautiful. Claire de Lune, beautiful. Diego. Dad's favorite song. Yeah. Stronger by Kelly Clarkson. That's a big one. Yeah, beautiful. Deep appreciation for the music we love the most. That's great. Oh, I'm glad we were able to sing that together today. Great. All right, everyone, just take a deep breath in and blow it out. We're going in the last stretch. So we're going to bring everything together and then we're going to open it up to some conversation. But we have 7 tips to tune in. Okay? So 7 ways that I feel where we can tune in. First one is, let's remember that music acts like a drug. And It's all those positive things that we talked about. It can increase dopamine and serotonin, our feelings of social bonding and connectivity, and then also lower our cortisol. But we have to use it responsibly, because as we've talked about today, what our preferences that are now or what our assumptions are don't always resonate with others in the same way. So we're going to pay attention to them. We're going to ask them questions. We're going to recognize that music has a huge influence and impacts people greatly, and we're going to use it responsibly. Music preferences are critical. And it's not just the genre, but it's also the tone, it's the tempo, it's the time of day that you're listening to it. The music that you resonate with at 8 o'clock in the morning, if any, is not the same music you could resonate to at 8 o'clock at night. It varies drastically throughout our course of the day. And paying attention to those preferences are so incredibly important. Create the right music toolkit for you and your work. In your case, Jessica's house. And I love that you've invited me to be a part of this discussion where we can talk about it. I love the intention that you put in to selecting the instrumentation and having such a diversity, having some small instruments that small hands can use, having loud sounds but quiet sounds, having reflective sounds and rhythmic sounds, and having that variety that people can access. That's incredible. Then we have using music intentionally at specific times of day, knowing that we don't need music on all the time for it to have a huge impact. You could procedure it, that it could be at certain times of day, it could be during transitions. When we turn off music, we're not going to turn off music abruptly. We're going to turn the volume down first until it comes to a stop so it's not too shocking. So we're recognizing around how we can use music intentionally and sensitively. Create different playlists based on the feelings you need for the different goals you hope to achieve, whether it's to feel more soothed, more energetic, more productive. It's going to depend on every one of us, the different feelings that we may want to access. And as we've discussed today, music's incredibly efficient and effective to get us there. We just have to find the right music to get us there. And aren't we fortunate to be at a time in our life where music's so accessible and fairly reasonable for us to access? Constantly test the tone, test the volume, test the style. But some of the things we haven't talked about is in regards to the sound sources themselves. So, is there going to be a system throughout the entire house where you can turn on music? Or maybe each individual room you can turn it on or off? Or do you have a good quality sound source, a speaker that just hits all the right notes, pardon the pun, for people in that space and it fills up the space? But paying attention to our sound source, paying attention to the sound source we use in our own home as well for ourselves, paying attention to the headphones that we're using, that they're of good quality so we're hearing great quality sound, and we're constantly testing, we're constantly looking at the quality of the music itself. And remember always the value of silence. Silence is a big piece of music. And in therapy land, we talk about active listening, that we're being witness to the person that we're with, that we're paying attention, that we're listening deeply. And in silence, we can do that. Take that moment. And you can always contact me This is the last slide. You can remember, you can ask me questions. You can submit questions to Brad and Aaron, and they can ask me, and I can get back to you and I can help you. These are the two books that I've put out. Tune In is the introduction to music therapy, and it includes 10 strategies for using music with intention. And Wellness Incorporated is on the side of our organization of creating a sustainable healthcare organization where we find our bliss point. So we also, it's leaving a legacy ahead and all those pieces. So two very different books, but two books that have meant a lot to me in my career as I've moved forward. You can keep touch with me on social media. I would love that. More Californians, the better, as far as I can see. And and as I said, the most important is, just let Brad and Aaron know if you have any questions as we move forward together. I hardly can wait to see the space itself, and I'm going to come down and visit. Wouldn't it be nice if I could come for Thanksgiving this year?
It's just so wonderful, Jennifer. I learned so much, and you just, it's a great training for us. So thank you for all of these great ideas and for just bringing music into our lives and helping us to just see how we can use this at our new home. We're so excited to do this, and also looking forward to your next training later on in the year with us.
Yeah.
So exciting.